folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, what's happening, folks?
Sam Healey, what's up, y'all?
What was that?
I don't know.
Today we're talking about conventions. A lot of people like to go to gaming conventions, and there certainly is a lot of conventions to go to. We have not been to all the conventions. There's really no possible way to go to all the conventions.
I think we should try.
That's true.
I think that's all you would do. You'd go from week to week.
I think you could literally be
Again, I think
like
we should
fly
try
just from
next year.
convention to convention. You still couldn't be at them all.
Yeah, well,
There's too many.
yeah, so anyhow, there's a lot of different conventions, so we thought we'd talk a little bit about them. We're going to be excluding trade conventions from this, like GAMA and the New York Toy Fair and Nuremberg, because only people in the industry can go to those, so they're more like trade shows. There's a lot of trade shows actually throughout the year. And we're also going to be excluding invite-only conventions like the Gathering of Friends or other conventions like get people just have a get-together. You know, those are not.
Right.
So there's also, we're going to exclude it for the time most of the big conventions like PAX and Dragon Con and MegaCon and things like that, because for the most part we have not been to those, and they have gaming as a subset. And I hear that it's a good subset. Well, I didn't think MegaCon was a good subset, but I heard the other ones is. So we're just talking about gaming conventions. So here's I think I got the conventions we've been to. We've been to MeepleCon, which is in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. That was a very small regional con, maybe 200-300 people.
Right
after GAMA.
Grand Con, which was another, well, they said like 1,000, but I never felt like it was 1,000.
It felt smaller than that. It felt about as big as MeepleCon. Actually.
Yeah, about 300 or 400 people it felt like. I've been to Total Con, which is well over 1,000, but a good half of them are role-playing games, so another 500. Those are like the small regional conventions. The big ones we've been to, Dice Tower Con is still not huge, but it's getting bigger. Board Game Geek Con, about 2,800. That's held in Dallas, Texas. Then the big four probably would be Origins and UK Gaming Expo, are the two smaller ones. One in Birmingham, England, and the other one in Columbus, Ohio. Both of them in the summer, very close to each other actually.
Yeah.
And then the two biggest conventions, Gen Con, which is held in Indianapolis, Indiana, which, if you're watching this video when we posted it, we are at it right now. And Essen, which is in Germany. Well, the Spiel Fair, actually, which is in Essen, Germany.
If you watch this video in several months, we will be at that one as well.
So, and there's other little conventions and things we can go to. But now you've not been to Essen yet.
I've not.
But you will be this year. But there's still ways to compare them in size. All right. Size is a factor for some people. Okay, going to a big convention has its positives and negatives.
Yes.
Going to a big convention is great because if you're looking for a publisher, they're likely there. At Gen Con this week, if they are any kind of publisher of any kind of renown and within 1,000 miles of America, they're probably there.
Yeah.
Not everyone is there, but most of them are there. At Essen, you'd be hard-pressed to find a publisher who is not there. So that's the benefits of being big. Being big means you can do big, giant things. If you have a contest for whatever, a tournament, you're going to fill that tournament up.
Yeah.
Like the UK Gaming Expo just had the largest X-Wing tournament in the world at it. So that's the benefits. What are the disadvantages of being big? Well, it's expensive. Hard to find rooms at the hotels. Hard to make plans to go in.
Also, a big convention like that is also just intimidating to a lot of folks. You know, it's a big event. It's
so many people.
It's like going to a sporting event. You know, a massive sporting event. You got to be jam packed in there. You are surrounded by the throngs of people.
Right.
You are going to be dealing with that feeling of there's so much going on around me. And if you are someone who is bothered by that feeling of, oh boy, I'm missing something going on right now, hang on to your boots, because that's going to be happening constantly. You can possibly be doing everything that's going on at every given moment. So if you like to be at the thing that's happening right now, going to a big convention is going to deprive you of so much, you might end up leaving feeling like, oh, I missed so much, instead of I saw so much, which is probably also true. But it's going to feed that feeling of, I'm missing something right now, you know. That, I think, would be possibly a negative for some folks.
Yeah, very much so.
You also just may not like standing in line or crowds, and that's...
Yeah, if you don't like big crowds, I would probably say that you won't necessarily enjoy many of the big conventions because no matter where you go, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
I mean, even walking to and from the convention, there's a lot of people doing that at almost any given point in the day. So you're always going to be surrounded by, like Zee was saying, a throng of people. And if that makes you nervous, you'll have a hard time enjoying yourself.
Yeah. It definitely, you might want to be the kind of person who starts with something small, or even just not necessarily starts with something small, but just sticks to small conventions. There's no reason for you to have to ramp up to these big events. It's not a necessity, and that's a mentality that I find a lot of people do sort of, push on other folks, where they go,
well,
oh, you haven't been to a big convention, start small and then go to the big conventions. You can just go to the small ones.
I can't agree with the idea of going once for the spectacle of it, and then once you know for a fact that isn't for you, there's no reason for you to go back.
Okay, but if someone doesn't like, let's say, going to the mall because it's too crowded and they don't like that sort of thing, maybe it's just not for them. I think not everyone likes it. I'm always very hesitant. I really dislike when people say, you should go to Essen. Why?
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
You gotta fly
if you're someone who
overseas.
dislikes crowds, you don't need to go to Essen to discover that you're not going to like it.
But it's also a very expensive proposition.
It is as well, yeah.
Now, we not need, but pretty close to need to go to these big conventions because we're in the gaming industry, so we need to go talk to people and get news and all that stuff. But I mean, I didn't go to Gen Con for many years, and I don't feel like, so many years wasted.
No, I think the only thing I'm trying to say is that if you have the opportunity to go, even though you think you aren't going to like it, there's no harm in trying it.
Well, I don't know. If you think you're not going to like it, you should probably not go. It's expensive.
No, I said you have opportunity to go. That's kind of all inclusive. That it's not going to be a drain on your economy or anything like that. If you have opportunity to be there
and means,
which includes means, in my opinion,
okay,
then go ahead, give it a whirl. But you'll probably find out that it's not for you. But now you've done it, and now you know it's not for you. So I wouldn't say avoid it like the plague. If you have opportunity to give it a whirl, go ahead.
I think even possibly even more important, though, than how you work within a crowd or whether you prefer a small group of people or a large group, the style of convention is going to be paramount to where you fit in and what kind of convention you like going to. And by that, I mean, if you want to go there and go and play games all day long for 4 days, then there's going to be some conventions that fit that style of conventioning and some that don't. And maybe you want to go and check out the vendors, see everybody lined up selling their goods there. And there's going to be conventions that fit that style. There's some that give you a mix of both, and I think that's an even bigger selling point as to what convention am I going to like.
And just because, we always say, if you want to shop, go to big conventions. If you want to game, go to small conventions. That's not always the case. Sometimes the really small conventions can be very cliquish, and it's hard to get into a game because everyone's there playing with their group, and it's not so like the medium cons, maybe there's people sitting by themselves. You can go jump in a game with them. But I found sometimes at a small convention, and I feel like it's easier for me than many people because people know who I am. Sometimes I have a harder time jumping in a game because everyone's already kind of with their group.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I would say, though, that most conventions, almost any time of day, you can find a game going on somewhere. Whether you'll be able to get into it or not is one question. But most conventions, people go there to game. Now, some do go to buy stuff, and part of their day is regimented for being in the dealer hall or the exhibitor hall and buying their wares and that type of thing. But, I mean, when I walk around, when I'm walking to and from our booth and that type of thing, there's people gaming all over the place.
At which conventions, though?
Well, I was literally thinking about Gen Con right now. I mean, if I'm walking out of those halls that are connected to the exhibitor hall, I mean, I'm
Oh,
looking
that's
into
true,
rooms.
yeah,
There's people gaming in there. There's people sitting at tables in the hallway gaming. There's people just doing a whole bunch of gaming everywhere I look. And so it's there. It's just that the question is, are you going to be able to get in on it, or are they being cliquish?
All right, well, let me ask you guys this. We're very fortunate that we have a lot of input in Dice Tower Con. All right, there's Dice Tower Con's in Orlando, Florida, held there every July 4th week, and it's really great, and it is by far my favorite con, but that's very biased, obviously, because we have a lot of input into it.
Right.
So taking Dice Tower Con out of the mix,
Okay.
what convention is your favorite to go to, and why?
This is the first year that I've had that I've really gone to the most number of conventions in a year for me.
Right.
It used to just be really Dice Tower Con and Origins were the only ones I could really make it to because I was a teacher, and most of those conventions, well, during the summer, I was also doing summer camp, so my time was regimented already. So this year, I've been able to go to more of them, and I really have to say that probably. Now again, I haven't gone to Essen yet, so but out of the ones that I've been to, I would say that Origins and UKGE are my favorite ones, if we exclude Dice Tower Con.
Right. What are your reasons? Why would they be your favorite?
The reasons for me is that, first of all, the number of people that are there are about what I'm comfortable with. I could probably go a little bit higher with the number of people there and still feel comfortable, but I guess you could call it a sweet spot, so to speak. You know, that I don't know, right around 8,000 to 10,000 people. You know, that's about my cap. If it goes over that, I start feeling a little bit antsy, feeling like I'm a little bit too crowded. But I mean, I get over that. You know, when I go to Gen Con, it's I focus on the booth, and that that limits my world, so to speak. So
Okay.
I can be comfortable there too.
Okay.
But so sheer number of people, the style of convention that it is, there were a lot of people gaming at UKGE. There's a lot of people gaming at Origins. And where we have our booth at Origins is right in the middle of that gaming hall. So everywhere I look, people are gaming, and I just like that atmosphere. I like that better than the marketplace aspect of the exhibitor hall.
Okay.
So I would say those two are about equal, and they're probably my favorite.
I don't mind the crowds. I like the big conventions, and I like the marketplace atmosphere because it's something I feel I can't see anywhere else or get anywhere else. Whereas the gaming is more, it's a little easier to reproduce the gaming just at home or at a get-together, more, a smaller thing an easier thing to reproduce. So I like the big ones. I like Gen Con and I like Essen. I think of the two, which I think are my two favorites, excluding Dice Tower Con, which is it's like home,
Yeah.
I think I prefer Essen out of the two, and that's partly because of that world scope where you see games there from all over the world. You see games there that you probably won't see again, like ever. And I just enjoy that. I like being able to have, a booth by a major company, and down the hall a bit is a booth from folks I've never heard of before, and they've got a game there that I've never seen before. And I like that. I like that everybody's there and everybody's able to have their little piece of the pie and show you what they brought, So Essen for me is I think my favorite.
Yeah, this is a hard call for me. I like the different kinds of conventions. I love Essen and Gen Con because, unlike you, I love crowds.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can meet a ton of fans at those places, and I love to just see all the stuff on display. But if push came to shove, I'm going to go with Sam. I think Origins and UK Gaming Expo, they feel like the two sides of the same coin. And again, Sam mentioned that sweet spot. I really like that too. I like how they're big enough that they have an exhibitor hall. They even have like stuff you might not see somewhere else, like a room for Artemis set up, or maybe a small costume contest or whatever. Just enough of that, right? That it's not overwhelming. And The areas surrounding both those conventions are easy to get into and do things to, which is a small, minor thing, but I mean, it is something that does affect my enjoyment of the convention.
Yeah.
So, there's some conventions, like I said, we don't go to everything. We don't go to BGG Spring. There's other conventions that go on over the course of the year, but I have never been to a convention that I just did not like. There are some that I don't like as much as others. There are some that I've said, well, if I never go to that convention again, I won't get upset.
Right.
But part of that might be because that convention experience is reproduced somewhere else. Like Gen Con is not going to happen somewhere else.
Right.
If you miss Gen Con, you miss Gen Con.
Right.
If you miss Small Regional Con A, Small Regional Con B is going to be very similar.
Well, that's kind of my point about reproducing that gaming atmosphere is a lot easier. You can, if you have a local game store, for example, you could say, hey, in 1 month, how about we set up a big gaming day? And no, you're not going to get Origins gaming, but it's going to give you that feeling of a lot of tables, folks sitting around playing games, assuming you have a little bit of space in your game store, But the lines of vendors, that energy of the bazaar mentality, and that feeling, that energy is going to be hard to reproduce anywhere else. And that's what I like about those cons. It's that unique feeling.
I guess I just don't like shopping that much. Maybe that has something to do with it. I just don't really care for shopping. I'm one of those people where if I need to go get something, I'll go to the store, I'll get that one thing, and then I'll leave. I don't spend an hour walking around the store.
That's fine, and I'm not saying necessarily even shopping for it, but it's all there on display.
Yeah.
It's more like window shopping a little bit.
Another thing I hate.
You don't like window shopping?
I don't.
No, I mean, I don't like window shopping either when it's like, pants. But if it's games,
Those, I love them.
when it's board games, I'm in. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And you don't get that anywhere else. If I end up window shopping, it's going to be for something I don't care about.
I guess I have the mentality where if I'm not going to spend the money for it, or if I don't want to spend the money for it, why do I need to go look at it? You know what I mean? So, with a very limited budget, if I'm walking into there, there's so much of can't get that, can't get that, can't get that, can't get that. Oh, maybe. Oh, I can't get that either.
I guess.
And it's just it's more of a downer than it is. I'm going to enjoy the stuff that I already have. I don't. It's just I'm quirky. I got that, but I'm just saying that when I walk into an exhibitor hall, there's so much that I want that I know I can't get, and that's a downer. Okay. So I'd rather just go play games with friends.
Well, that's another good point. Maybe that's something else for folks who are watching this to consider. If you are someone that, if you see it, you're the kind of person who's got to have it.
Right.
Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't want to go.
I don't want to go to the big conventions.
Don't go to the big ones. This is going to be tempting. I mean, they make it tempting. They'll set out the booths and the demos, and they dress up to give you the demo. They'll, the razzle dazzle is going to be there. So
convention prices also are
there's
cheaper
that
than they
too,
were,
but you get it right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if you're someone who has that got to have a mentality, then maybe you shouldn't put yourself in that situation.
Right.
All right. Well, tell us what your favorite conventions are and why. Maybe it's because how close the convention is to you. Maybe you have friends you can meet. Maybe it's because it's the first one you have nostalgia to it. Whatever. Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear feedback about all the different conventions, and maybe other people are looking for more information about them too. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, thank you, folks.
Sam Healey. See you on the flip side.
You've been watching BackTalk.